As we speak, the meeting between Anthony Albanese and Xi Jinping is underway, or just getting underway, and I'll have more on that in a moment if the pictures come through. And this is, of course, very important. China is our largest trading partner. It's a global and regional superpower, and it's throwing up a raft of difficult challenges strategically, diplomatically, economically, on human rights, and even on issues like global warming. So this leaders' meeting matters. But let me tell you how Anthony Albanese and Labor has made it hard for themselves and for this country. Let me explain how Labor has actually made this nation vulnerable to China's politicking, how China has played Labor off a break. This stuff has been played out in slow motion over the past few years as China has punished Australia with trade bans, punitive tariffs, insulting rhetoric, diplomatic cold shoulders, and even the mistreatment of our citizens. China has punished Australia for daring to ban its companies getting their hands into our broadband and mobile phone networks, for us daring to pass laws aimed at preventing political interference from foreign nations, for us daring to express concern about Chinese military build-ups in the region, especially on disputed islands in the South China Sea, and for us daring to suggest there should be an investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the point here is that while Labor pretended in opposition to be bipartisan on China, it couldn't help itself, often effectively pleasing China by blaming the problems on the coalition government's actions and words. That is, blaming Australia. Have a listen here to Penny Wong, now, of course, the Foreign Minister.
It is true China has changed and our relationship has become harder to manage. But desperately playing politics on China whenever he is in trouble does nothing to strengthen Mr Morrison's authority with Australians or with Beijing.
Yeah, criticising the coalition over the handling of China. And also listen to the former Prime Minister and former Foreign Minister Kevin Rudd, who's now our ambassador in Washington, of course.
The Australian government, in my own judgment, has not played this particularly well. Sometimes when China has been excessively assertive, the Australian government often responds rhetorically to cater to its own domestic political constituency, as opposed to pursuing what I would describe as a rational, long-term, hard-edged, hard-nosed bilateral strategy towards China.
Yeah, so this is the narrative that Labor helped to establish back before they won government, that the punishments being inflicted by Beijing on Canberra were partly the fault of the coalition and therefore Labor would do it better. And now, with a thawing in the relationship, some trade sanctions dropped and others about to be dropped, and with Prime Minister Albanese in Beijing, we hear claims this is the reward for Labor's calmer, more reasonable approach.
We have sought to improve the relationship with China by being patient, calibrated and deliberate, by engaging in a constructive way, and I think we're seeing benefits from that with our trade.
Yeah, self-praise is no praise at all, hey? But you get the picture there. Albanese and Labor will bask in the glory of the trade sanctions being lifted and all the rest of it. Hell, we've even seen a prisoner freed and sent home. But think about how cleverly China has played this, and think about how vulnerable Albanese, Wong and Labor have left themselves. They've injected partisan politics into the China relationship. They've sought to damage the coalition in government over China and now grab the glory in government themselves. So Beijing has them over a barrel. Can Albanese muscle up to China in the future over defence, over foreign interference, over the South Pacific, or over human rights even? Can Labor afford to be as strong on China as Scott Morrison was? How would that look if China punished us again? Having blamed such punishments previously on its political opponents, Labor would look like it had mucked up the relationship itself this time. That's the worry here. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a good thing that Albo is there. The relationship is crucial. But let's hope he has not surrendered at anything. He should have surrendered absolutely nothing, no concessions. And let's hope he's spoken with absolute strength, and he's doing so as we speak in Beijing. Strength and frankness face to face. And he does so again when he faces the media tomorrow. Because the last thing this nation can afford is for Albanese to be cowed by threats of criticism from China. Labor, sadly, worryingly, seems to have made itself politically vulnerable to diplomatic barbs from Beijing.